Will there always be violent video games? Actually, yeah. So you may have noticed, it's that time again. No, not Rosh Hashanah. It's time to talk about Grand Theft Auto 5, and of course, violence. Like many of you, I'll be on the streets of Los Santos, shooting at helicopters, robbing banks, and getting a haircut.
Smokey needs a cut.
And as such, I'll be part of the time-honored tradition of stealing a man's car and then running him over with it.
Not cool, sorry.
However, as an adult, I'm starting to feel a little weird about it. But this isn't the first time that games have been criticized for violence. Despite numerous signs that games are growing up, violence is the single issue that's dogged the medium since Death Race in 1976. But Death Race was just the beginning. During the 80s, video games became shorthand for corrupted youth.
Children have skipped school or stolen money to play the games.
In 1994, Mortal Kombat's virtual violence caught the ire of lawmakers, who then instituted ratings. Doom was thought to be an inspiration for the Columbine killers. Postal 2 was cited during the Supreme Court case against games as free speech. And of course, there's Night Trap. Oh, Night Trap. But what's strange about all this pixel death is that we as a culture are actually becoming less violent. As psychologist Steven Pinker has pointed out, over the last 500 years, European countries have experienced a 10 to 50-fold decrease in homicide. And in America, the FBI says that violent crime is at historic lows.
Maybe I won't be dead by 35.
And yet, you wouldn't necessarily notice this if you looked at some of last year's best-selling games. Black Ops 2, Halo 4, Borderlands 2, Assassin's Creed 3. That's a lot of stabbing and shooting, and sequels. But without judging, it's fair to ask, why are there so many violent video games? Let me blow your mind right now. Games, not just video games, are violent, or at least they represent violence. In reality, for thousands of years, what we thought of as games was really just shorthand for fighting, punching, and generally uncivil behavior. One of the oldest sports on record is wrestling, which is basically two dudes fighting but with a couple extra rules. In the Middle Ages, there was jousting. And in 1600s England, there was a sport called shin kicking, which is exactly what it sounds like. And violent games are common across pretty much all cultures. Lacrosse, developed by the Iroquois, used to be way more violent than it is today. According to one French explorer, almost everything was allowable, short of murder. There's kabaddi in India, where opponents tackle each other to the ground, and buzkashi in Afghanistan, where people on horses battle each other to move a goat. And of course, there's football, America's favorite game, where this happens. And where games didn't involve real people hurting each other, board games, card games, and other types of games mimic the same violence. In Eastern India, around 600, a game called Chaturanga appears that involves the 4 military divisions of war. You may know it as chess. Monopoly was originally called the landlord's game and was used to simulate the economic violence of the free market.
Corner the market in utilities. You can't lose.
You're trying to bankrupt everyone else. And think of all the simulated violence of games like Stratego, Battleship, or Dungeons & Dragons.
Your mission, sink the enemy's fleet.
Battleship.
So is it any wonder that after thousands of years of punching, brawling, destroying, and dominating each other in games, that video games are violent too? If the early designers of chess could have made a game that looked like Battlefield 3, they probably would have. But all they had was wood and stone. To be clear, and I want to be crystal clear, I'm not saying that violence is the only thing that games can do, or that all violence in games is appropriate or justified. But it's fair to ask why there have been so many violent games throughout the ages. The reality is, humans have lived and have always lived in a complex, competitive world. Ostensibly, violent games are forcing you to think strategically, about navigating all kinds of difficult obstacles. People always say that life is just a game, and there's more than a kernel of truth to that. Using PET scans, scientists have observed our bodies and our brains become heightened in response to real or representational violence. And when you succeed, your body rewards you with a flood of good feelings. According to evolutionary biologist Mark Bekoff, play is training for the unexpected. It leads to mental suppleness and a broader behavioral vocabulary, which in turn helps animals achieve success in ways that matter. At its best, violent play encourages us to respond to rapidly changing stimuli, forcing us to adapt to survive. So if games are in conversation with culture, and life is fiercely competitive, then shouldn't games reflect that violence? Look, I don't have all the answers, but maybe you can answer this question for yourself. Do you think the strategic skills and collaborative abilities that you learn from playing violent video games have had a positive effect? Or do you think that violence in video games is useless and unnecessary? Either way, hash it out in the comments and let the great video game violence debate continue. And if you like what you saw, subscribe. I'll see you next week. Last week we examined Let's Play videos. Let's see what you guys had to say. A lot of you mentioned Game Theory's video explaining PewDiePie's success. It's a great video. There's a link to it in the description. Here's my thoughts. Absolutely, YouTube has a part to play play in terms of identifying which videos might be able to rise to the top, and maybe their algorithm does favor them. But think about it this way. YouTube's actually just a multiplier, right? If there wasn't people who really wanted to see Let's Play videos in the first place, you wouldn't see the same kind of subscriber numbers. So yes, YouTube has an influence, but I think that's only part of the answer. A lot of you mentioned that we might have missed some Let's Play videos and other people that we should be watching. Well, you're probably right. Everybody has their favorites, and in fact, you should check out the comments and see what other people are interested in. Some of you mentioned Minecraft as being one of the reasons why Let's Play videos have taken off, and I think you're totally right. Minecraft was a pivotal moment, in part because it sold so extremely well, but in part because Minecraft is the perfect type of game for a Let's Play video. Everything's different, everybody has a different type of experience, people are making whole new things in the world, and they want to show it off. So there's nothing better than like having someone do basically a nature walk through one of their Minecraft worlds. It's a perfect reason, and absolutely, Minecraft was part of the success. Anthony Montano says that I look like the musician Toru Imoa. Well, think about it. Have you ever seen us in the same place at the same time? A bunch of you mentioned that we missed out on Something Awful's important role in Let's Play history. You're totally right. If you want to read more about it, there's a link in the description.